This is episode 233 of the Focused Mindset Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the relational nature of hope and how hope lives so fervently in community. And I fully began to understand this in a conversation that I heard during a conference that I was speaking at and also attending. And I'm going to tell you all about it because I'd heard it before. Hope is a social gift. I read that quote in Chan Hellman's book. I've told you that myself. I've never really began to ponder how true that is until this conversation. So it's time for me to talk about how that impacted me. So hopefully it'll impact you as well. So let's get started. This is the podcast where we build strong connections and have amazing conversations using the solution-focused approach. I'm Cher. I'm a school counselor and a speaker and life coach. For far too long, I lived my life thinking I needed to have all the answers. But now I realize that giving out hope is far more important than giving out advice. And when we come together here, we'll learn to take our thoughts captive and focus on what's most important so we can make an impact on this world and be the person we were always meant to be. To learn more, head over to cherkretz.com. That's CHERKRETZ.com. Or hop over to Amazon to look up 30 Days to Higher Hopes. Hello, it is time for us to break this down. I've had this on my mind, and I'm so glad that I'm able to connect with you today and let you know about it. Recently, I spoke at the SF24 2025 conference. Now, I spoke at this same Solution-Focused 24 conference in 2021, and I hadn't got a chance to get back on that stage until this year. Now, this is a very unique online conference because for an entire 24 hours, solution-focused practitioners and specialists are speaking on this subject. These are people all over the world, and part of the joy and actually hope in this whole conference is that you're able to listen to someone that is in New Zealand, and then all of these people that are speaking Mandarin, and they're in China, and then they're in the UK, and then they're in Europe, and they have a whole slew of people that speak from all over the place in the United States, from California to Texas to New York. And what an experience. It is truly something that happens only once a year, and what an honor to be a part of it. Now, you can listen to all of the playbacks of this very conference, and I'm going to tell you about it because I'm going to refer to a conversation that I heard, a panel conversation for the kickoff of what they call the Americas. And of course, the Americas are the very last bunch of speakers to speak before they close out the conference. And you can listen to all of this on YouTube. You can go to Solution-Focused SF24, and they have a whole channel. Not only is my talk going to be on there, but all of the talks in this conference. So if you ever want to get way more than what we ever get here, because, here on this unique podcast, I bring solution-focused concepts into whatever topic that we're talking about. And sometimes, especially when I have guests you've seen, we're not actually focusing 100% on solution-focused, but I try to bring it into how we can have a solution-focused mindset more than anything else. And so we are ready for the solution-focused conversations. So we're ready for the solution-focused counseling because it's something that's on the forefront of our mind. So if you're able to follow this program, this particular YouTube channel, you're going to get a lot out of it for sure. Actually, unfortunately, my talk didn't get posted from 2021. I didn't record it. And this year it will be, though, so you can look it up. Another thing is I'm going to share it with you, though. I did two different talks. I'm going to share both of them with you. So, hope. I don't know about you, but when you bring up the subject of hope with some people, it seems really elusive. People don't really know how to pinpoint it. Now, if you're a solution-focused practitioner, you know that the question that we ask and we are encouraged to ask in one form of another is right at the beginning of our conversation is, what is your hope for our conversation today? And it brings us to the present moment. It brings us to what is your hope for this present moment. And it allows a person to focus on the reason and the purpose for us being there. And it's been such a powerful question that it's stuck. It's really sticky. And even when people ask it in a different type of way, it's really the essence is trying to capture a hopeful place within that person. So when I heard Chan Hellman say, hope is a social gift. Now, I had read this in his book. There's a whole section on it. But I heard him say it in a podcast that he was on for Psychology Today. And both of those times it really kind of hit me is I need to dive more into that. I need to figure out more about what he means about it being a social gift. I mean, a gift is a pretty big word to use, right? Is like you're going to unwrap that as something you're looking forward to, and then you get to keep it. It's yours. But I do believe that hope is a social gift because it's in community with other people. When we are able to take the hopeful feeling, I want to say, not even feeling, more of the hopeful attitude that we've been practicing and taking on and adapting as our own. And we get to be in the moment with someone else with that hopeful attitude. And let me tell you, it catches. It's like when you're around somebody who is exuding a certain type of energy, it's catching. And before you know it, especially if they're a very dynamic person, the whole room is kind of taking on that same vibe. Hope is that way. If you are the type of person that has chosen to really cultivate hope in your life, it's something that takes practice. It's a habit, if you will, but you become a person that has the attitude of hope. It's a posture, if you will. And when I thought about that myself, before I heard the conversation that I'm going to tell you about, I often felt as though my preparation going into each and every one of my solution-focused conversations in counseling, as well as just really the way I choose to live my life, is every time that I can stop and tap into my own hopefulness and the things that I hope for, that's happening right. What's making me be able to experience hope right now? And when I'm able to be grounded in that, it seems as though it is easier for the other person to catch it because I'm listening differently. I'm bringing up things and I'm bringing it up authentically with hope. And pretty soon I can kind of see them begin to be like, I'm looking at my situation differently. And there's really something that we give to each other when we are in a room, right? We're either giving some type of negative vibe and then all of a sudden people are gossiping and they're talking bad and I can't believe this happened. Or it can be the opposite. And it's just a switch in the way that you choose to approach a conversation, the way you choose to move in a conversation, what you choose to focus on that's being said and how you look at it. It's not optimistic. That's kind of the opposite feeling. Although some people put that together, it's not. It's not, I just look at everything great all the time. It's that you're walking in saying, in every moment, there's hope there's something inside of me that chooses to be hopeful. And I am going to put that energy out wherever I am at. Now, I believe that hope is something that without it, people can, I believe this because of my research. It's not like I just believe it in my heart, but research shows that people that begin to slowly become less and less hopeful, the lowest level of that is apathy. And with apathy, it's very challenging when you're sitting in front of someone that's been through it so much that they really aren't noticing hope in their life. You can feel the draining energy. You can feel that they're low. You can sense that something when you're with them is way off. And and you've been with someone like that. Maybe even they're falling into a depression and you don't know it, but you're like, something's off. Something's not right with them. And it's because it's such a foundational, important feeling for us to be able to hope towards something, anything, even if it's just the very next thing that we're doing. So when we think of hope as relational, I've been pondering this for a while, and then I sat in the Americas opening ceremony, if you will, where they had a panel of 4 people. And I think the whole conference was loosely and purposely devoted to hope, because the solution-focused approach is one that promotes bringing people's hopes to light, and then so they can move forward with that. And this particular panel was by, I don't know exactly how to pronounce these names perfectly, but I'm going to give it my best shot. It was with 4 people: Frank Thomas, Heather Frisk, Pamela Lard, and Haesoon Moon. And all of them from different parts of the Americas, whether it be, I think Haesoon's from Canada. They're all from different places, with one discussion that they were having. And that is, how does hope impact you? And what do you think about it? And what's your approach on it? And for me, the talk got really real, and it was like everything just got tuned out, and I was 100% focused on what I was listening to in that moment when Frank Thomas began to speak. And it's because he said, I'm listening to what you guys are saying, but I begin to think about the relational aspect of hope. And he talked about Snyder, and we know that Snyder has the hope scale and tons of research about hope. I mean, he's probably the godfather of the research part of it, but he never really tapped into the social aspect and the relational aspect. And he said, I'm thinking about that. And he also mentioned another talk that happened the year previous. He talked about the fact that when people are in the moment, it's not, even though hope is something that we're hoping for the future, it's not a future-oriented thing. It's a present moment. In the very present moment, what can we tap into that's hopeful? And the way that people tap into that is when they're in relation and they're talking, and they begin to have moments where they begin to brainstorm and think and share and be themselves. When you're with that person that you're most yourself with, and you begin to just share something and they feed off of it, hope thrives in that environment. And then the question becomes, where and when is hope present in your life? Not so much what is your hope, although that is a very important question that can be answered many different types of ways. Someone can talk about, well, my hope for this conversation today is just that I'm going to walk away with a little more clarity, or a feeling of happiness, or being able to solve this problem that I've been dealing with. Or they might go to a place where, I have this hope that something will change in my life, and this is what I'd like it to be, right? But it's that conversation in the moment where hope is alive. And you know that I speak a lot about inviting hope to the conversation, because I believe that hope is always there. It's just kind of hidden. There's something hidden in it where people have buried it so deeply, or not allowed it to resonate within their world. So it's not something that they normally talk about or think about. So when we think about this aspect of hope being an internal place that we are in and relational, I don't know, it just really opens my eyes to the importance of how we're having conversations and what we're saying in those conversations, and that we're accountable to bring a hopeful attitude into the spaces that we're in as much as possible, as much as it can be useful. And we want to ask the questions of, where is hope prevalent in your life, and when is it prevalent? When, as far as like, what are you doing? What's your situation at that time? Who are you with? And then where are you? Maybe you're most hopeful when you're in nature or in your room when you're most comfortable and quiet, or when you're at the gym. It's so important for us to be aware of that in our life and aware of that when we're talking to other people, and finding out the environment, the space that they're in, the place where hope can thrive. Because when we do this, they are able to picture themselves taking action. And action is when hope really begins to be something that becomes a part of you, is when you take action towards that thing that you're hoping. And so it's not really so much something that's a skill, although I guess it can be a technique that we use, but it's not so much of a skill. It's more of a practice that we choose, that when we relate with other people, we want to relate with an attitude of hope, because we know that it's catching and that they can catch it, and then they will also be able to take that little spark and possibly have it grow into something that they've never experienced before. Now, I honestly believe that even if a person is going through it in such a serious way that they cannot even access hope, that if they think that we are hopeful for them, then they have an opportunity to do better. They actually can do better. And that was also something that I remember being said in that discussion. It was live, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait. And I actually still can't wait. I'm going to go back and listen to this whole conversation again, because I was just trying to take it in. But I remember that later on they talked about that in that conversation of, even if people can't access hope, because that's where we go sometimes, right? The question always becomes, and it happened a couple of weeks back when I had a guest on the show. It was when I was a guest on somebody's show. They said, well, what do you do when people can't access hope? They just can't. And I said, I just don't believe that that's something that is possible. I believe that hope always resides. It's just hiding. So we had a discussion about that. But if you want to take it further, honestly, even if somebody can't, and let's say that you leave that conversation and it's not going to progress, don't force it. No. Please don't be that person that's like, we're just going to keep talking about this and I'm going to force you to have hope. It's never going to happen. Even if you need to just kind of help them know how hopeful you are for them, they will be able to, I guess, kind of float on your hope for a little bit. I can't think of the exact word, but they're kind of like when you're in back of someone's car, a big truck, and I forget what it's called right now, but you're like behind it and you can kind of like drive behind it and it saves your gas. Some of you are like, you can't remember the word, it's this. Anyways, if I remember it, I'll say it later. But that is what people can do with hope, right? So they can kind of like feel better because they know that you are hopeful for them. There's a saying that I heard way back in a seminar that I was in. Oh my gosh, this was such a long time ago. It could have been 30 years ago. And the person on stage said, it's not what I think I am. It's not what you think you are. It's what I think that you think I am that matters. Now, this is a quote that's been said many, many times. But on that day, when it was said in that seminar, I thought, whoa, that is unbelievable. That was an insight right there for me. It was like a moment I'll always remember, because it changed how I approached other people from that moment on. Look, this was before I was a counselor, I'm pretty sure. And I realized that, say, in my relationship with my spouse, that it was that way. If he believed that I thought a certain thing about him, that even if he didn't believe that it was true, because I believed it, it became more true within him. And really with everybody, but that was the first relationship that I kind of thought about that with. And I thought, well, then we need to be really, really careful with what we project to other people. Way too often as a parent, I made the mistake of over projecting the negative that I saw That is a really, really hard thing not to do, because your job as a parent, right, is to teach, train, and you so badly want them to be able to tackle those negative traits. And who else is going to tell them but me, right? Their parent. And that's exactly the reason why I did it. I'd be like, no one else is going to tell you. I'm a very blunt person. Here, this is what you're doing. But overly doing that means that they're going to believe that that's what you believe of them. And that could be completely untrue. As a matter of fact, all day long, you could be thinking about the wonderful, joyful, incredible side of them that you love, and you can't wait to see them again. And because they're going through something where they're a grumpy little mess all the time, you're capitalizing on how you shouldn't be doing that. I hate it when I fall into that trap. And then I have to catch myself. And then I need to be like, wow, if 10 positives outweigh one negative, I'm in a serious problem. I've got to double up all of my wonderful statements because I got stuck in a rut. And I feel the most powerful way to do that is to confront it straight on and be like, I got to change it. I do that every day in the present moment. But that alone shows me why hope is a relational thing that that's happening in the moment. It's not a future thing. Even though we think of hope being placed in the future because we're talking about a hope of something that hasn't happened, it's more of something that's happening in the present that we need to tap into. We need to tap into the hope. And that is why my book is, that's why I say in my book, in the planning part of the book, which is really the middle of it, it's my journaling book, not the book that I'm currently writing. But in my journaling book, I ask the question of the person who's journaling in that book to say, what is my intention for today? Even though it's the planning phase, we need to get in touch with what our intention is in the current moment. And I also have the person go ahead and scale on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is your hope today? You can tap into that within you where it is. That's not something that's foreign to you as soon as you begin to think about it and really allow yourself to stop for a minute and say, where is my hope today? And sometimes you need to think of, okay, in what type of thing? Because there's many type of things we can put our hope in. Your hope might be very different for your career as it is for your relationship with your best friend or your future prospects of, I don't know, what you're going to do in the summer, right? Whatever it is. Whatever is on the forefront of your mind, you can place that on a scale of 1 to 10, right? And anyone else can too. But see, it's in that present moment because that could change next week. And of course, the ability to make that change is part of the exact definition of hope. So what I want us to think about is what these people that were speaking on this panel began to understand is the relational aspect of hope, that we want to cultivate that within us to be that person for other people and find other people in our life that also bring that out in us. And we want to be able to seek out those that help us to be the people that will be able to help us tap into the most hopeful part of ourselves. There was some interesting ups and downs during speaking during this conference. My first talk went a certain type of way. The second talk went very different. I'll just tell you that. And in between that, I had so much anxious energy. And near the end of this panel talk, they said, so who is it in your life that brings you hope whenever time you talk to them? And it's probably the person that you feel the most like yourself and you feel energized. And I thought about that person and they popped in my mind almost immediately. And you know what I did? About an hour or so before my next talk, I gave her a call. And we talked it out. And I told her that's why I was calling her. And it was exactly what I needed. It was a relational moment of hope, is what I needed to be able to be my best self, to be able to be the person I truly wanted to be in that, and not let any of that anxious energy be the attitude that I brought into that moment with the people that were spending their time to listen to what I wanted to share. No, it wasn't my intention, but if I wasn't careful, that was exactly what was going to happen. So a phone call to my really good friend Linda was what was needed. And once that happened, exactly what should happen, my heart felt in sync with the person that I needed to be for the very next hour. And also, it was the right person to call because, of course, a few minutes before I was going to hop on that virtual stage, I got a text saying, "You got this." We all need to hear this. You got this. It's that part of just being a cheerleader for the people that we care about and allowing that moment to be everything that it should be because we care about the other person. So what the panel realized, and what I also want you to think about, is that hope is like a posture that we take on. Do we have the posture of hope? Now, if we have been slouching and looking at our phone and looking down all day at our phone or typing on our computer, we get a really terrible posture, don't we? And I can tell you from all the writing that I've been doing, I get very focused on my writing, and I put on my favorite music in my headphones and I just go. And then I realize, oh my goodness gracious, I need to stretch. And our posture needs to be, I want my posture to be as straightforward as possible, right? When I'm working out, that's something that my favorite coach always works on, is the posture. And that's why. It's because we need to do that on purpose, be able to straighten up and have the posture that we want to have. Many people that are in martial arts, I have never been in martial arts, but talking to people that are, I guess they have a certain posture that they practice over and over again that you need to have in order to be what you need to be when you're in martial arts. It's a very a focused and intentional type of sport. Now, if you think of hope as a posture, are you taking on a hopeful posture? Are you taking on an attitude of hope with the people that you are talking to when you're in your personal meditation, prayer time, whatever it is? Are you approaching these things with a hopeful or a sense of doom or a sense of regret or beating yourself up or wondering if the worst possible scenario could happen? I think about many of our relationships, how because we've been through yucky things, we bring that at times into our next relationship, and we don't want it to happen, but somehow this dread is within us that just thinks, what if this happens? What if that happens? But it's happened before, so it could happen again. I've got to do everything to guard against it. And in your efforts to guard against that thing that has happened to you in the past, you're actually leading from a place of fear or a sense of hopelessness. And that's the way the other person will take it. Like, well, don't you have any hope for us? Don't you have any hope for our future? And a feeling of hopelessness, like this could go wrong. We can't do this because this could happen. It is bringing an energy of hopelessness in a sense. It's not a posture of hope. That might be a conversation you need to have with yourself. That's between you and yourself, not the other person. When we bring an attitude of hope into the relationship, then we're going to ask the question differently. We're going to approach it differently. We may have cycled through our own conversation with ourselves of vetting it out to say, oh, there that comes again. That's not the energy that I want to bring into my relationship. So I might then approach it with a posture of hope and say, you know what? I would like us to, and then say what you're hoping for and what you would like to happen. Leave out all the other. Leave out all the, oh my gosh, that triggers me and it's going to, what if this, what if that? not because it's not true, but because you're now projecting exactly the opposite of what you actually want in that relationship. And the other person is then, getting off the phone or whatever it is after talking to you and thinking, well, my gosh, don't they have any hope in this relationship? I know that I do. Do they? And this questioning is something that they're not doing. It's something that you did by not approaching the conversation with relational hope, knowing that hope is a social gift. You can give the gift of hope to another person. I'm hopeful for this. You're not just saying it, you're living it. You're letting it reside within you and then letting it come out in your attitude. Oh man, it's so important. The thing that I talked about in this conference is preparation and how we can prepare for a conversation. And the reason I chose that is because I'm writing the second chapter of my book, Solution-Focused Coaching. It's going to be coming out. I don't know yet when. I'll have to find out what the publisher says about that. But there's a whole bunch that I honestly have began to do research on, the preparation of the mind. The mindset of a solution-focused coach is different, I think. And really, it should be the way that we approach our life. If you honestly know how I feel about it, we don't always, and that's fine. Are we perfect? No, of course not. But I did a whole talk, and you'll hear it later, about the preparation that we need to take and why it's so important, and giving some actual ways that we can prepare our attitude and prepare our intentional mindset to be exactly where it needs to be for a solution-focused conversation to thrive, and for us to be in that relational space that helps us grow, helps us connect, helps us create a bond. And think about it. When you are in that place, and let's say you have a moment of insight that's amazing, it's like the two of you just shared something that's almost magical, right? Like the two of you thought of something and you're like, wow, that's so true. And you can't remember any details about the conversation, but you can remember that moment because something happened with the two of you. If you want those moments to happen more often, that moment of recollection of insight that leads to then hope. I really believe that insight is the thing you have right before you have hope, right? I can't get into all of this right now. I'll have to talk on this another time. But, you have this moment of insight, and it allows your mind to move from a place of a little bit of a lost place or figuring something out. You have a problem you're trying to figure out. But the moment you have an insight where everything comes together, then you're free to say, you know what? I have hope that something different is possible and that I can move towards that. And a decision is made to take that action. And when that action takes place, wow, change can occur. Change can occur. It can occur in our life, and it can show up in the strangest, most bizarre places where, I did not expect to experience such a magical and wonderful change right there. Thank you for that. I'm grateful for that. I believe we can have those kind of relational, hopeful moments in podcasts. Might be why you listen to podcasts. This podcast and many other that I'm going to do in the future will be only audio. It's not because I don't love video. I do, and you can catch all of those on YouTube. But many times because the preparation that it takes actually makes me only have a whole bunch of ideas and not actually sit down and talk about it. I really believe that the visual aspect of podcasts isn't where the magic is, because sometimes we do want to look at their facial expressions and things like that, but it's what they're saying that feels directly to us. And it's what we're thinking while we're listening to them that allows our mind to just click, click, click and make connections and more connections. And we're not distracted by the things around us. Many times we're in a place of freedom where we're just kind of like chilling and doing a mundane activity that we do all the time. All of the perfect conditions are there for amazing insights. and then you pop on your podcast, and growth happens in that moment. So I guess that just brings me to the point of saying I'm grateful that you're a listener to the Focused Mindset podcast, because that's why we feel connected when we speak here. It's why the same thing that happens to you happens to me when I listen to a podcast that rings true to the way that I think, or the way that I want to think more of, is because of that relational aspect. And thank you for being here. I want us to be able to seek out those experiences, seek out the times where we can have relational hope, and let me know about it. I want to hear about your connections. You can get a hold of me at share@thefocusedmindset.com. Email me, hop on my website, cherkretz.com, and get on my email list that basically I send out my Hope Notes newsletter. Sometimes I'm a school counselor, and I'm telling you, anyone that's also a school counselor, this job, sometimes it is intense, and I get home and my energy is gone. The energy for the day is gone. So I can't at this point in my life commit to, every single week you're going to get a Hope Notes from me. But man, when I feel as though I send something out and then one of you send me an email back that it meant something to you, hey, there's that relational moment, right? So feel free to go over to the website, cherkretz.com, check it out, and let's keep in touch. And it's time for me to get going. So until next time, live solution focused. And that's a wrap on episode 233. I love talking about the subject of hope. If you can't tell, I'm probably going to go back and listen to this episode again because I love it that much. Am I weird? Yes. Now, don't take off yet. Scroll down, check the show notes. You'll find out all the places to follow me. I am on Instagram, Cher Kretz @The Focused Mindset Podcast. I have YouTube, and I wanted to ask you a question. Have you listened to my TEDx talk, How to Lead with Hope? Solution-focused conversation navigation. If you haven't, head on over. You are going to love it. I don't want you to miss a single moment of these type of conversations we have together. Now, leave a little comment, and I read every single one of them. This is just another way for us to connect. And now it's time for you to head out and be your very best self, just like I'm going to do. It's actually time for me to eat dinner. I don't know what time it is for you, but until next time we meet here, live solution focused.